remember 2025 NWSL Coach of the Year, Bev Yanez. Full honorific for the whole year.
Hello, everyone, and by everyone I mean Michael and Joe. We're here with 2025 NWSL Coach of the Year, Bev Yanez. Bev, if you could just give us a statement on Houston, what you're expecting this weekend, what you're looking forward to, and then I'll turn it over to these guys for some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, good start to the season for them. Very respectable coach, Fabrice. I've gotten an opportunity to know him through the coaching world. A very respected coach. I know that there's such a clear style into what they're trying to do. It's really evident in what he's teaching, and the group's buy-in to that is always based off of us assessing a scout and what tendencies we potentially see. So again, very respectable side. Away for us, obviously bounced back from Seattle. Very aware that in our first 3 matches, we have produced a point. I'd say the learnings from each game so far and kind of what we discussed in the first match against North Carolina, we felt we put our chances away against Washington. Obviously, came out second half, felt like we lived a little bit too much in artificial transition is what I label it as, of just continuous transition moments. Addressed that with Seattle and thought we had a good performance against Seattle. You know, to be honest, a lot of our conversation post the match was based around like the game can be cruel, right? In most aspects, the stats showed that we had a good performance. So I think it's keeping the group in a good headspace, keeping our internal narrative that I always speak about very protected. It's 3 games in. I definitely feel all the conversations we've had in each match has really pushed us forward in a great direction. I think being focused on the process is incredibly important right now. The underlying metrics are showing that it's coming through, that we are focused on that process. And yeah, just excited for another match. I think closing out today for match day -1 was speaking about it being our last match before the international break and wanting to end on a good note. So yeah, just excited for the group. They're taking it step by step. We're discussing how we can continue to be better in every aspect, but also I think there's been a lot of good throughout the past few matches, specifically this last match. So building off of that confidence and continuing to showcase what we can do.
How challenging has it been the last 3 games to have to field a different lineup every game because it's been basically forced upon you with injuries?
Yeah, no. I have spoken about this in the past in reference to always seeing that glass half full, and I think it's really important to showcase early that the trust that you have in the group, and to continue to build that trust, it being something internally we speak about a lot, trust. And I think having those opportunities to showcase that you do trust them, whether that's starting, coming in, rostering, whatever it is, I do think says a lot about the group. I do think says a lot about the ability for these players to step up in those positions and take their opportunity, but also I think it will pay dividends. I think getting people exposure early on is fantastic. So that's more of how I'm taking and how I'm viewing it. I hope the players feel trusted in. I hope, that when and if the opportunity presents itself, that's what this sport is, and that's what sport is, right? You never know when the opportunity will present itself. You just have to be prepared for it. And it's such an art. So, yeah, I think I've been so happy for those. Maybe it's not a role they're familiar with, or maybe it's a role they are familiar with. All of those players have stepped up and have not questioned it at all, have not, at least to me, have exuberated like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous about this. It's more of what can I do to help the team? I think, again, it says a lot about our group. And like I said, the sport is when the opportunity presents itself, whatever it looks like, can you take advantage of it? But can you also be the best that you can be for the team in order for the team to find success?
Joe mentioned Courtney back at left back. It seems kind of one of the themes over the last couple of seasons has been trying to fit, players into holes. I think that's good from a flexibility perspective. We've seen a lot of flexibility, but it does kind of keep people from kind of operating at the top of their abilities. And you see Taylor Flint as a makeshift center back's like, wow, wouldn't you really rather have her at midfield? How do you kind of manage making sure that I know you got to cover with certain pieces, but you really are getting you got the most effective players in the most effective spots?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe within all of their abilities and attributes, our jobs as coaches is to continue to showcase those, right? And if we believe that this player's abilities, experiences, etc., suit this position, it's about having and building that relationship with them, the confidence in them that this is why we see you here. Is this where we'd see you in the foreseeable future? I'm not sure, but this is our needs right now. And again, I think it screams coachability. I think all the way back to like our recruitment strategies and what type of players we're looking for. Like, we never know what situation is going to present itself at any time. Would I like to be in a position where, I'm looking at specific players in specific positions? Yes, but I do think the flexibility shows that we are prepared for multiple different scenarios. I think we've shown that early on. But we also have the confidence to be able to do it, whether it's relying on a player that's just stepped into league for their first time. They've only been in our systems for preseason, to someone who's been in, with our team for 2-3 years playing a different position. So I think it says a lot about them and their ability to step up, which I never want to lose. But of course, would I like to be in this position? I don't think anyone necessarily wants to be in a position where there's not a lot of players available, but I do believe we are making the most of it, and the group is making the most of it, from those players trying to return and what that process looks like, but also the players that are available doing anything that they can to be available and whatever's asked of them.
So you mentioned asking players, to be ready to step up. So how much warning did you get last week that maybe your last lineup wasn't going to be the same as your lineup that you had to use for Seattle? Was it, a couple days so you were able to pull people aside, or was it kind of some last-minute change?
Yeah, some earlier than others, some as late as possible. And I think that one of my jobs, maybe on the inside, I'm like, but on the outside, my job is to make sure that I don't showcase any of that. So for me, I'm always prepared for anything. Someone can wake up and be ill because of something they caught. They ate something the night before. I always have to be prepared for that. So I try and take I'm try to be very emotionally composed in all of that, of like, once kickoff occurs, and then I'm prepared for what maybe the entirety of the game looks like, right? And being prepared to make adjustments. So I'm always prepared for that as a leader, and I think it's really important to be prepared for that. So sometimes I know earlier, sometimes I know as late as match day, and that's the reality of it. But I try to be prepared, and I believe by being emotionally composed for the group, I'm hopefully showcasing what emotional composure looks like if you're asked and called upon on game day. Which was the case this past weekend, and I think that specific player did a fantastic job of, okay, sounds good, I'm ready, coach. And I think that's really important. I think it's really important.
One last one from me, maybe a little bit more of a tactical or philosophical thing. You mentioned artificial transition.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's in the same kind of category that I kind of call counter possession. Will you talk a little bit about what you kind of mean by artificial transition?
Yeah. And I'm speaking very specifically on the Washington game. So we discussed a lot, obviously, from the first match with against North Carolina. Coming into that next match was, let's put our chances away. So then we put our chances away and we're up 2-0, right? Halftime comes. And we just felt like, from what we were trying to expose from being a high-pressing, attacking transition team, we were forcing quite a bit. And then we felt that discussion of, when we secure it, when we look to go forward, can we have a bit more of a balance? And when is that transition moment done? Again, fantastic goals. Obviously, Fisher, cuts inside, takes a shot on goal. We want more shots on frame, right? And she did just that. And then Emma going the amount of yards that she did, which I didn't realize how many it was until rewatching it afterwards. I'm like, wow. So yeah, you have to credit the group in all of those spaces, and you always have to credit this group, that this group's going to show up every day and they're going to work very hard. And I think that's why they've got such a following, because you know what to expect from this group. And I think coming into what I'm speaking about, artificial transition, is if we're defending for more amount of times than we'd like to be defending, what does that mean for our bodies physically? What does it mean for our minds mentally? So it was more of a discussion based off of that. Can we be a bit more intentional in these moments of why we would go here? Where are we located on the field? What does the exploit look like? Is it a 3v2? We have a numbers up situation versus put our foot on the ball, get into our shapes, transition's actually done. We're in possession at this point. So that was a big conversation for us, which I felt the group was incredible with that bounce back, with that discussion throughout the training week and then in Seattle. And I think we showcased that. I think we looked very confident on the ball. I think we looked very composed on the ball. Obviously, there's always things that we need to continue to work on. We should be in that position this early in season. But I do appreciate and have really professionally respected the responses from each match and the discussions we've had and what the groups look like throughout that week and their application to it in the match itself. So that's more of, I hope that helps describe what I'm speaking about.
Strand, take a couple.
Thank you. So sorry.
No, it's okay.
Just where do you think that you specifically need to improve upon? Like you mentioned that you're having those discussions,
Yeah.
but what are the areas that you're looking at targeting for the next couple of matches?
Yeah, I think with the, in specific, I guess I'll break some moments down. One of the big discussions in North Carolina was out of possession. We felt we were latching on and jumping too early. So we were creating almost, here's the free player, and they were exposing us, right? Then we felt second half when we were a bit more organized, right? It's your first game of the season too. You're excited. That's the reality, right? I'd rather be in a position as the head coach to go, guys, we need to like tone it down a notch than be like, why aren't you sprinting and why aren't we getting enough from you in these moments, right? So felt like we organized it a bit more. And then as I just explained from the Washington match, and then same thing I think they showcased in Seattle is the organization to decide when we go. We're intense in that moment. We're very aggressive in that moment, but we're very aligned about when we go. We're very tight. We're very compact. So for me, that's very exciting to see that evolution even kind of early on in preseason all the way through these few matches. And then in possession, we've presented different pictures, which I'm sure that people have seen, different ways to build different shapes, different personnel to build different shapes. So it's just continuing to be as threatening as possible. You know, what we've spoke about this week is we are creating a lot. When you saw from the Seattle match, the amount of times we entered the final third, the amount of touches we had in the box, right? The amount of shots versus shots on goal. I think it was like 20-7. They were like maybe 6-2. So you're looking at that going, you're incredibly excited because we're finding moments to get in there. But now it's just being a bit more clinical. It's a run across the box to grab a defender so that it's 1v1 within the frame of the goal. Instead of crossing too early, go end line, ask bigger questions of them. We're not settling for shots outside the box, right? So it's just speaking a bit more about how can we be a bit more threatening in this moment? What would be the most threatening decision here? So that's been a big discussion for us. And again, I'm excited to see the group's progression so quickly, so early on the topics that we've discussed, but we've also been really intentional as a staff of not being too broad in our topics. We have to be very specific so they have a chance to see that throughout the training week and then have a chance to see where are we at on that match day. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of where I feel we're at right now.
And kind of going off of that, do you feel like it feels like last season you were really creating the identity and getting everyone to buy in? Do you feel like this season now you're fine-tuning where that kind of comes in the match? You said like the final third and being more clinical. Do you feel like it's just the fine-tuning aspect now?
I'd say it's the evolution. I'd say more evolution. Everybody knows our identity now. Everyone knows, they see the logo and they know what to expect now. So when can we be a bit more organized and potentially like a little bit deeper and still doing the same actions? When can we be a little bit higher and do the same actions? Can we fluctuate in game? Can we fluctuate in game with what our in possession shapes look like? So I think it's a bit more of getting the group's buy-in and confidence in like the evolution of what we look like. And I think we've showcased that early in that we can be organized and can still execute that aggression and intensity. So I'd say it's more of an evolution.
I fear that I walked in right when you answered this question, but
Okay,
I want to
no
make
worries.
sure. With Emma Sears, is there any concern that this is going to be a longing injury? Was she just out for, one game? What is her status?
Yeah, we're taking it day by day right now.
Anything else? Joe, go ahead and say it. I know you want to.
We've dubbed it the Bevolution, by the way.
Oh my gosh. You guys cracked me up.
Thanks, Bev.